two different screens. This is with the live view, and then this is if you have any notes or anything.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there's
So
no
after I'm
notes,
done, I'll just
anything.
bring this up for you.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
And then how do I scroll from screen to screen? Because there should be 3 slides.
Oh, click here.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
On this one, just out of curiosity, do we need to do like motions and votes, or are we just gonna say up front, like, this is just a review? All right, are we ready?
Selena is not joined the Teams call yet. You have to wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah, we can wait, no problem. Yeah, I did too. Thank you. We're ready. All right, we'll call to order Nickel Plate Review Committee meeting July 27th, 2022. Today we have on the agenda case number NPR-20. Oh, do we need to call roll? Oh, we do need to call roll, yeah. We'll call roll, okay, please.
Let's do the pledge.
Oh,
And then we'll call.
okay, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I can't hear the roll call, but I'm here. I don't know if anyone can hear me.
Sorry, we did the pledge real quick. We're gonna do roll now. Kay, would you like to
Okay.
do roll, please?
Yes. Hi, Selena, are you there?
I am here.
Thank you. Jamie Nieves is unable to be with us. So, Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Bowman.
Here.
And Mr. Block. Here. You.
Okay, so first thing on the agenda today is case number NPR-22-4, 11405 Lantern Road preview. Custom Container Builders, on behalf of Joe Nixon Properties, request approval of site design, architecture, and waivers for a 2,260 square foot custom container builder's new residential house. The property is zoned VC-Village Center with the common address of 11405 Lantern Road.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Ross Hillary, Assistant Director of Planning and Zoning for the City of Fishers. As Emily said, before you this evening is Nickel Plate Review 22-4, which is 11405 Lantern Road. The site is located on 0.054 acres at 11405 East Lantern Road. The property is zoned VC Village Center, shown here on the map. Here is the site plan for the improvements. Custom Container Builders, on behalf of Joe Nixon Properties, is requesting approval of site design, architecture, and waivers for 2,200 square foot custom container builder, new residential house. Here is a rendering of the proposed shipping container home. The proposed home will be 3 stories in total with a final height of 29 feet. The proposed materials are an exposed corten steel from the shipping containers, wood planks that are shown here along the front facade, and glass. These elevations were updated earlier before you this week to include the addition of a 2nd-story balcony covering to provide additional articulation, which was a request on staff. Here is the rear inside elevations. Again, these were updated elevations that staff provided. The petitioner has provided these concept plans here that show the context and scale of the surrounding area. South of this lot is the existing residential conversion, 11401 Lantern Road, which is home to Sweet Escape Beauty Salon. And north of this lot is the new commercial infill development, 11413 Lantern Road, which is home to Net Financial. Staff does believe currently the proposed state that this development does not meet the current expectations from an architectural standpoint of the adjacent recent infill development that we have seen in the nickel plate, which is why we requested this to be a preview. Here are examples of Twigs and Tea infill development that Joe Nixon Properties built recently at 11399 Lantern Road, and then also images of homes by Gradison Design along Morgan Drive. Staff is seeking additional guidance from the Nickel Plate Review Committee. As presented, it would require a waiver from the requirement of masonry, a waiver that staff does support, and also would require a waiver of material for corten steel. The current facade, based on staff's approximations, is around 80% corten steel, 10% wood plank, and approximately 10% glass or windows. Staff recommends that the corten steel be no more than 40% of the facade. Staff recommends continuing this item to the next meeting for your feedback to guide the petitioner. The petitioner, as well as the developer, is here to answer any questions, and they have a couple of slides as well.
Thank you, Ross. We'd hear from the petitioner now.
Sure.
Thank
We're
you.
just gonna give you guys some printouts, if that's all right.
Yes, awesome, thank you. And what you're showing up here is what you're giving us now? Okay, all right. And Selena can see those, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all. My name is Casey Irwin. I'm working on some of the design of the property. I will be deferring to Mike Lewis, our builder, for any technical questions, as he's a lot more familiar with those materials than I am. I know that, let me see if we get to slide 1. Here we go. In addition to the steel, which I will go over here shortly, we do have a Boral Siding. We're looking for dimension, contrast, things like that to make it feel a little bit more residential in this area, and so that it goes along with what is already existing and complements those pieces. Boral is a faux product. We're really looking for something that's going to withstand sun, exposure, all of those things. So this is a product that has a 25-year warranty with it, and it will be stained in order to match more of a redwood look. And so it does have a slat, almost like a shiplap you could compare that to. And we've given you some application examples of how that works on homes in the lower right-hand corner. I've also highlighted all the areas where we would be putting that product on the shipping container. So especially from that front elevation, people are looking at a primarily wood accented home with some steel along the lower part as well, which I will get into here in a moment. Let's see here. The majority of the home is made from corrugated steel. There are some details as far as the strength of this product. I think I really wanted to highlight the epoxy paint that's used. It's a 2-part epoxy paint, and what this does is it prevents any corrosion, and again is just going to be resistant to chemicals and easy to maintain for the homeowner. There will not be a lot of upkeep. You will not see this decay over time. This is a product that they use on ships and commercial grade machinery and products. The color that has been selected is graphite. It is a dark charcoal product. Because of the corrugation, the light will hit that at different parts. So you will feel some dimension. It's not going to look like a completely black box on the side of the road. You're going to have some highlight and then some depth within that as well as the sun hits that. There are again some examples of homes in this color in the lower right-hand side of your printout there. And then luckily one even showed it along with the stain and the similar facade that we're suggesting with the Boral Siding. So that gives you a better idea of what that might look like. And lastly, we just want to highlight the glass in the home, just because that is an element that can help break up some of these materials. We work with a specialty glass company. Just like any other home, you're going to have tempered glass, you're going to have insulated glass, and that will be within sliding doors, casement windows, and potentially even the front door may have some visual interest with some glass as well. And to be determined as far as the frame material, but most likely it will be a darker color. However, the types of metal will give you more of a contrast, so you are seeing more of a visual interest between glass, steel, wood, and different types of metals. One thing we haven't highlighted is, again, just for visual interest and of the home, there will be lighting fixtures and things like that. So we have the opportunity to bring in some different designs just to make this feel more integral as far as a traditional residential home along that street. Do you have any questions? Are there any questions?
I don't think right at this moment, is there anything else from the petitioner before we do get to the questions? No? Joe, you good?
We have time to kind of answer.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, well then we'll take it to the committee for the overall, let's see how we go. All right, go ahead.
Go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, if I could maybe get back to Ross and some of the staff recommendations to understand some of the concerns. What I heard was that there was a worry about the compatibility of this structure with other construction that's occurred in the area. The second concern I had, or not, I just wanted to clarify with you, is the 40% recommendation. With the changes that were made, does that now meet that recommendation, or are they still shy?
So I'll go to your second question first. I'll defer to the petitioner on the percentage. That was the woods, and then our measurements showed that 80, 10, and 10 before. Do you guys know what your percentage of material is?
It's closer to 50% now.
Oh, so 50% steel, and you have a percentage of wood and glass? Okay, so I'll defer to them on that actual percentage. Coming from a context standpoint, we showed a property that Joe Nixon Development did a couple years ago that you guys approved. This was another infill development, as well as the Gradison product. And when we're looking at these, there's multiple ways to look at modern architecture. We just felt from a staff perspective that it wasn't at that same caliber, regardless of the material, and that was based on scale and modulations. So Mr. Nixon did provide an example of another product that you guys approved a couple of years ago, or I think last year. I'll pull that up real quick. So Joe, I don't see that email here, but there was a product that was approved down the street, which had a very similar 1 to 2 material. It was a different type of product. It wasn't steel. That was what he was referring to. Down on,
Was that on Francis? Like around the corner there? I feel like I remember that one.
yeah, so 11297 Meadows Drive.
No, it was on Meadows, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a singular colored material, hardy plank, wood.
Okay.
When we approved that, did it have a different, I want to say like a different pitch to the roof, different slants and things like that that made it a little bit more interesting?
I can try to pull that up for you, Selena.
Okay.
Maybe while we kind of try to see if we can find that email, there might be some other questions that we can kind of get to in the meantime. When we're, Eugene, would you like to go next? Do you have any questions or?
No, I think my main concern question was just the masonry aspect, and I think staff recommendation that needs to be incorporated in a little bit more how that would go. Staff can work with the petitioner to get that put into this particular project, but that's really my main concerns, especially because a lot of those a lot of the projects along that road have that masonry component, and this, as it's presented right now, doesn't have any of that built in as it stands right now. So that's just my main concern. Again, keeping that aesthetic with the rest of the neighboring properties to keep that aspect in this particular development.
So I was able to find that. This was something that was approved, I believe, in December of 2021. This is a residential product, 2.5 stories, which is a combination of hardy smooth sand panels, aluminum wrap, and wood panels. And here for context, Selena talking about the pitch of the development. See the elevation here as well.
Yeah, so it had a little bit more elevation pitch to it than what this one does.
So Rich, to your question, it is currently under construction.
Okay.
Okay.
Selena, did you have anything else that you would like to ask?
You know, I just think we need to request that there be additional materials added to this, given that there's no pitch to the property. You know, it doesn't really have that roof pitch and things to make it more interesting. I think particularly along the sides of the property, you know, and the back, that we need to have a little bit more interest in some of those with some various types of materials. Possibly, you know, I think another option would be windows that, you know, that were set out a little bit or something like that to add a little bit more dimension. And then different types of materials that would add the contrast. So I want to go back and basically say, work with staff on getting some of the materials upgraded that I think will make it better fit with the area. That's my comment.
Okay. Question, is this double or is it a single family residence?
So
Or is it like a work live?
I believe the final intent, it is a single-family residential house as it's being constructed, going through the residential permitting process. I believe it will potentially be used as sort of like an Airbnb, but staff doesn't look at that from the perspective of the architecture review.
Yeah, right. No, and I know that doesn't change necessarily. I mean, well, it explains some of the architecture with 2 doors and 2 entries and things like that. So I'm just trying to understand a little bit of that part of it, having 2 doors on the back. I think I personally think that the front elevation is nice. I think it's nice. It has some with the door on the left hand side of the upper balcony. You know, bringing in some a difference from the plain glass windows, and then I like the front a lot actually. I think this, what side is that? North side. I think even if we just brought more of the wood element into the overall picture, I would be less concerned with masonry, because I do want it to match style, and masonry doesn't necessarily match the style as much as maybe the wood element does, unless we're taking the wood element away and putting in the masonry. So I am not as opposed to considering the wood element strongly as part of that masonry, as I am just making sure the overall style works together and is cohesive for the building. But then I like that it's not the same as the places next door. It brings that modern, cool factor, but I have some concerns. And is this a recycled storage container? I mean, is that essentially what it's going to be, or is that we're creating a recycled storage container?
Technically, it's one trip, so it is recycled, it's been used one time, but it's, yeah.
And so the longevity of this style of building, I know obviously steel is, it's and you said it's been used in a lot of commercial buildings and things like that. But do we have concerns with the longevity of this? What is the maintenance of? This is definitely going to be something where the petitioner is probably going to need to come up. But like maintenance-wise, I've seen recycled container homes before, and they haven't always lived the life you would like for them to live. And I know that this style of build has gotten better, and we've learned from mistakes and things like that have been made in the past. So I just kind of want to talk about the maintenance and the longevity of a building made of steel.
Yeah, the maintenance, obviously with the Corten steel, we work with Sherwin-Williams on that two-part epoxy, and that two-part epoxy, like I said, specifically made for the Corten steel. And because it's a hardener, so a lot of times if people have used ship container projects, sometimes they use the container as is without the paint put on it, to specifically made for shipping containers. But the longevity would be just as long as any typical home, or even longer.
Mm-hmm. And what's the roofing material?
The roofing is a TPO. It's a rubber membrane flat roof.
Okay. So let's just say we get a really great hailstorm. It's going to go through the same type of that any home would go through. I mean, we're going to see. Will we see dents as much as we would normally see in a hailstorm? I know siding actually doesn't do well with that either, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, actually you would see less. Essentially it's a 14 gauge Corten steel, so it's a little thicker than your normal, like when people put corrugated siding on houses. Mm-hmm. So it's once again, these start off on the as shipping containers on the ocean, so they're hit by many and are made to withstand a lot of those forces.
And that paint, that epoxy paint you're talking about, holds up pretty well to a hit by something?
Yeah, because it's two-part epoxy and it has a hardener in it, it lasts a very long time.
Okay.
Can I piggyback off some of your questions?
Yeah, go for it.
So I guess what I would say is I'm very open to, different kind of applications like this. I know a little about these, container kind of applications. I really don't know a lot, but I was kind of curious when Emily asked about the durability of the home. My bigger concern would be more structural than, like exterior. And I don't know enough, but when you're 3 stories up, I guess, can you speak to the durability of the structure itself and how that is? And before you answer it, if you don't mind, I'll maybe make another comment to what Emily said. And maybe this is coupled with a question, because I too like the different contrast of the front elevation, but I guess I would also want to make sure that the landscaping, the patio kind of, enclosures or whatever they are, is incorporated into the design and a part of it, because I think that provides contrast to that front elevation, and it creates kind of a welcoming kind of a feel to it. And I guess I just want to clarify that is in fact part of what we're approving, so that would be constructed and isn't there, if you will, for ornamental sake. But I also then, back to what Emily said, on the, I guess, north elevation that fronts the street, I do think some additional contrast is important, because that's going to be a little more heavily traveled, and you've got a pretty straight face with not a lot of material. It's all one material, so I think incorporating some change there would be helpful. And as I interpret the ash product, this is like a hardy plank kind of a material, the ash, right? And it's, because that to me is a really good product and can be made to look like wood, and it's very durable, which is good. It seems like it's just got to be increased in its application to create some more contrast. So maybe there's some questions in there and some statements of preference and such.
Yeah, so to speak on your structural, the house it's made obviously with shipping containers. They withstand 180 mile straight wind, where a typical house, 80 mile straight wind before a typical house would be blown over. We, any corrugation that we take out, and for the windows, for any of the siding, we actually put in structural steel, so the house is pretty much all steel. So from a structural standpoint, it's welded together on all the corners, in the middle, it's bolted together, welded to the foundation as well, so the project's not going to go anywhere for a very long time. And then
the floor between each level, what's that? Is it a poured concrete, or is it just a metal?
Each level actually uses the floor of the shipping container. It has an 1 3/4. It's called apatung. It's and then which is a hardwood from Asia. And then underneath that you have C channels that run about every 6 inches, or 6 to 12 inches down the entire length, 40 feet. And then on the base is we have this on a crawl space, and then we have plates that are embedded, and then that's welded to those plates as well.
Can I show you guys one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't show this picture that Mr. Nixon provided. So I believe this is on a facade of one of the Gradison products. This is either an EFIS or hardy plank. So I think what this is showing is similar modulation in the fact of a flat elevation, but the material is different. So again, this is something that is within that area that does show kind of this modern architecture, but staff would still rely on you to talk about material. One recommendation that staff might have in regards to the material would be, I think something you said, Rich. We realize that, and in this concept here, on lantern facing south, the one on the right, because of that kind of exposed area, we would recommend that that material be kind of potentially wrapped around maybe the 2nd or 3rd floor, whatever you guys would recommend, to kind of bring some of that more in with less concern about the other 2 facades.
I would agree. I don't feel like I'm the south facade. I mean, it is what it is, but it's going to be right up against another home. I'm not as concerned of it's not as visible as maybe the north and the east elevation, front elevation. So, you know, we haven't really talked about the rear elevation too much. I think that the container doors are at a level of interest, and I think that that'll bring in some architectural look to it. So I don't have as much concern about that either. Joe, did you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to kind of highlight on a few things and give you a little history. It was a while back that that Mike and I put something together and kind of ran it up the flagpole informally. And we had the container doors on the front welded open so you could really see them. We didn't have any wood, and it was very clearly shipping containers, stacked on top of each other, which I love. If you're going to use shipping containers, like, go hard or go home, right? Like, have some shipping containers. But the feedback I got was kind of like, it's a little too much. So we kind of shelved it for a little bit. I don't know, Mike, if you remember that when I was like, the picture just isn't quite ready for it. So waited a little while, and then the next two homes built in the neighborhood, the 3-story one that we showed some pictures of, and then the one most recently that you saw, I remember walking by that one and saw it got painted and everything. I was like, if you didn't know better, that would be built out of shipping containers. I mean, it looks just like it has the vertical seams. It has, it's all one color. It has a little bit of a wood trim board, but otherwise, I mean, it's all black, vertical lines. I was like, okay, you know what? We should talked to Mike. I was like, we should revisit this because it seems like the architecture is getting away maybe from that first picture Ross showed and getting some different things. So what we did was took the container doors off the front, flipped the containers around so those cargo doors are in the back, added all the wood to the front, added the covered area over the balcony and all that, just to make it blend a little bit more, and then kind of ran it back up the flagpole, and especially with those other two homes now being built, we got a much warmer response, and it sounded like, okay, we're good to go. As far as adding some other materials on that north side, I'm open to it. If I was going to do it, I think I'd want to just keep with the wood. I would not want to add some kind of like this fiber cement paneling some of the other homes are using. I mean, it's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think if you just start adding a third or fourth element, it almost, in my opinion, starts to look clunky. Kind of looks like you don't really know what look you're going for. You were just told need some more stuff on here, so you threw it on there. I really like kind of the clean, simple, sleek, monochromatic. The wood on the front's great because it warms it up, but otherwise, just that look of steel and glass. I mean, to me, it's beautiful. I love it. The last thing I want to say is, generally, you guys are kind of, in a position to just guess what other people. A lot of this comes down to judgments and does it look cool? Does it not? Is it a good fit for the area? Is it not? Will adding some more paneling or something make it better or worse? You're just kind of guessing, really. I mean, you're using your own intuition, your own judgment, but you're trying to do what's best for the area. I'm the last guy who's going to want to build something that the other people in the area don't like. I know them all. Most of them I've sold property to or built something they bought. We're all kind of in this together. So I've been very diligent about showing them, like, hey, here's what I'm planning to do. I would not want to throw something out that all you guys are like, I can't believe Joe built that ugly 3-story shipping container thing. What a jerk. That would ruin my day for sure. Ruin the next few years. So I reached out to them all the owners on that strip. Just to say, hey, if you guys have any comments on this, I'm going to the Nickel Pate meeting. They might want to know what you have to say. I wasn't going to ask them to all come here. It's kind of tough at 5 o'clock. So Mr. Net Financial, he said, Jennifer and I think it's gorgeous. Don't change a thing. Can't wait for it to be built. Debbie Cook with Twigs said, I think it looks great and I think it's amazing. Scott Rhodes, the Nationwide Insurance, said, looks awesome, Joe. Love the look. And then Nathan Zimmerman, who's the NWA Financial, the last one on Strip, he says, love the renderings. I think it would be a neat addition to the eclectic mix of classic and modern architecture on our street. The South Village is a unique neighborhood, and this is a unique proposal. Hopefully the city will agree. So just thought I'd give you that feedback. So instead of guessing what the other owners on the street, are going to think about it, they're on board. They love it. They want to see more built, more cool things added. That's all I got. If you got any questions.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It is always good to hear the feedback straight from their mouths. So, I think, I personally, I think it's great that they love it. I just think there can be a few changes that will, with working with staff, that won't change the overall style. think the one question that wasn't really answered that I'd like to bring up is this patio and the landscaping around the patio. Is that a permanent part of the plan that if we approve, that will be done?
So I'll speak on behalf of them real quick. It is part of the site plan, and it did go through the residential permit review. So to my understanding, that patio is part of the development. There'll definitely be a patio between the sidewalk and the structure for sure, about 20 feet. I don't know if it's going to look exactly like that, those dimensions, that hasn't really been nailed down yet. But it won't just be 20 feet of grass. It'll be entirely landscape, seating, wall, fence, something, but I'm not sure exactly what it looks like.
Okay, I think my recommendation on that point then would just be to, in the next, we're gonna call for motions and all that, and let's say it gets continued, I would like that to be something that is a part of the overall approval and is defined, prior to, final approval of any project moving forward.
I would say the last comment from staff is that I would agree with Mr. Nixon on the fact of not adding an additional material,
Yeah,
but to work with the material that they presented.
right,
We would agree that adding a third, fourth material does not do the structure any additional justice. So I would agree with Mr. Nixon on that.
yeah. I'm all for not requiring personally, and this is my side of it, I'm fine with not adding masonry necessarily. I think it's just more, the masonry requirement is there for a reason, and if you can find a suitable substitute, I think that that's a fair thing to accept. So, and that would be my recommendation on this also.
I'll speak for the record that I do agree with that. I know I mentioned the masonry aspect earlier, but I think the explanation has been clear as to the concept behind the proposal, and so I agree with you 100% on that, and looking to see how work with staff to incorporate what's already there.
Agreed.
I did have one more.
Yeah, go.
The rear, I just want to make sure I have my my documents right. So the rear, the west facing, and I just want to take one more look at that, please, just so. That was gonna be my question. The potential for any windows, I think I get the shipping container, kind of that aspect of it from those second and third floor and the concept behind that. I just was kind of lost on what's the color of the door gonna be? Is that gonna be black? Is it gonna be brown to match the wood and kind of stay in line with that color scheme? And then to your point, yep, Rich, about the windows, would there be any potential, I don't want to take away from what's going on with 2 and 3. I think that's actually pretty cool, and I think it's to a large degree part of this whole plan is a draw to the area. I think people will want to come see, like, look at this container house, and drives traffic and drives interest to businesses and other things in the area. But I did have a question. I was curious about the door coloring and then window. Any thought about putting maybe a window on that end of the structure?
So the doors are a good point. That'd be a good way to make wood match the material, possibly color and orange or yellow or some of the tops. Regarding the windows, so it's a little hard to describe, but there's an alley that comes straight into the back of this house. So I kind of chose to put all the windows on the other 3 sides. I didn't put one on the back, especially on the lower floor, because that's where the night cars will just drive straight into the back of that before they turn into their garage. So those are the back 2 bedrooms on the first floor. So those are the windows on the north and south side to try to avoid any rain on that side.
Yeah, I think the color of the door will just make it look more residential and not more, I don't say corporatized, probably the wrong word, but more like, we mentioned potentially for an Airbnb. Okay, that's neither here nor there, but I think having that color scheme to break up that end of the west end adds to that residential aspect of the structure.
I would agree. I think the door, something with the door in general, or even adding glass to the door, or keeping the color, but adding some layer of glass. Now, if it's in a bedroom, you might not want to do that, but something to break up that back facade on the main level that would be a really easy way to do that, and acceptable, I think. Yeah.
So in response to location, I pulled up the project map so you can see Mr. Nixon is working with his property owner here to have an easement across this lot, so we'll have access from this private alley network here, and so that rear facade would be facing this direction.
You know, I guess there's one other question that you just brought up. Parking for this particular residence will be street parking or along from the rear?
They would have the ability to use the shared on-street parking that is located both on Morgan Drive as well as Lantern, and then they are proposing a parking in the rear of the property.
Okay.
With connection to this alley.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee? Oh, great discussion. Yeah, thank you. Any motions for the table?
Well, sounds like staff's recommendation is to continue so that the petitioner continues to work on some of the questions that we've asked, but also some of the things that you've asked of the petitioner. And I think that would include the details of like the patio and things like that that would be included there. So I guess then my motion would be to continue for 30 days and let the petitioner work with staff.
I second that motion.
All right, we will take a vote. Kay, would you like to?
Yeah, excuse me.
You all right?
Yes, okay. Okay, Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
excuse me, Ms. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
and Ms. Stoller.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, well, the motion to continue to the next meeting is approved for case number NPR-22-4. Believe that is all for the meeting. Staff, do you have any communications for today?
If you don't mind, if we could go back to item number 3 on the agenda and approve the previous
Oh,
minutes.
yes, sorry. We need to approve the previous minutes from June 22nd, 22, Nickel Plate Review Committee. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Kay, would you like to take roll?
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
and Ms. Stoller.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I have totally messed up the agenda today. So now we will go to any staff communications.
Yes, so as many of you aware, this is staff's last week within City Hall. So this is the final Nickel Plate Review Committee that will be housed here in this room. On the agenda, you will see moving forward that the new meeting location for the Nickel Plate Review Committee will be Fire Station 91, which is directly behind us, not too far to go. That is 2 Municipal Drive, and we will be in the training room right on the first floor. So moving forward, that will be on the agenda. Kay will be making sure that you guys all know where that location is. We'll be providing a map, but that is the staff communication.
Okay, thank you. If there is nothing else to discuss today, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.